You walk away from a conversation and your chest is tight. Your thoughts are racing. You feel smaller, like someone reached inside and quietly turned down your volume. Nobody screamed, nobody threw anything, but you are having a physical reaction to an invisible attack. Most people try to fix this by explaining their feelings. They assume the other person operates on the same logic they do, that if they are just patient enough and kind enough, the other person will eventually value the connection and meet them halfway. A toxic person does not experience relationships that way. Where you see a chance for connection, they see leverage. Where you offer trust, they see an opening. Where you show vulnerability, they store ammunition. Explaining your pain to someone who is actively looking for leverage is useless. You are trying to install a complex empathy application on a system that only recognizes power dynamics. Your hardware is incompatible with their operating system. This psychological friction translates directly into a physical burden on your nervous system. This chart shows the biological toll. The line represents a normal, healthy baseline for cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. When you are exposed to chronic emotional manipulation and gaslighting, that line suddenly spikes upward and locks into a permanent red danger zone. Notice what happens as we split the data here. The red spike on the left represents a physical combat situation. The one on the right represents chronic emotional abuse. Your brain lacks the ability to distinguish between the two. A relative constantly belittling your choices triggers the exact same chemical alarm as a literal war zone. This sustained chemical flood produces intense physical side effects: severe fatigue, fractured concentration, chronic insomnia. These symptoms are the physical manifestation of your brain's survival protocol. You are not losing your mind. Your body is screaming at you, in the only language it knows, to keep you alive. Toxic behavior is often a response to an internal pressure, the fear that if they aren't impacting you, they don't matter. They stabilize their own sense of significance by disrupting yours. They provoke chaos specifically to extract an emotional reaction. To them, your distress is proof of their influence. If they can ruin your afternoon with a single comment, it confirms that they hold power over you. The primary defense is to become absolutely unreadable. You have to actively deprive them of the emotional fuel they are trying to harvest. Psychologists call this the gray rock method. Imagine a coworker baits you in front of your team, implying you haven't been working hard. Instead of defending yourself, you pause for 3 seconds, look at them, and say, "Interesting point," with zero emotion. Then you immediately turn back to your work. You give them nothing to grab onto. They pushed, expecting resistance, and you simply stepped aside. Without your emotional reaction to feed the conflict, their entire combative strategy collapses on itself. Refusing to react looks passive from the outside. In reality, mastering your own neutrality is a highly precise tactical deployment of armor. Sometimes you cannot step away. When a confrontation is forced upon you, you need a counterintuitive communication tool called fogging. Fogging means agreeing with the surface of a toxic statement without conceding the premise. You reply, "You're right, I haven't visited as much as you'd like." You remove the friction. The aggression slides right past you into empty space. Beyond immediate verbal defense, you can build structural defense through information scarcity. Every detail you share with a toxic person, a financial struggle, a problem with your partner, a new promotion, is collected and stored. They are not listening to support you. They are gathering intelligence to weaponize as leverage the next time they need a reaction. You counter this by becoming strategically vague. You stop returning every text within 3 minutes. You stop attending every minor gathering. You disrupt their expectation of unlimited access to your life, your time, and your data. Your nervous system dictates these boundaries as a requirement for basic health. Setting boundaries rarely brings instant peace. You might still have panic attacks or flinch at loud voices. Your nervous system is carrying residual hypervigilance. What happens next is a scientific process called post-traumatic growth. Resilience means bouncing back to the person you were before the damage occurred. Post-traumatic growth is different. Post-traumatic growth requires your previous worldview to completely shatter. When every belief you held about trust and safety breaks down, You are forced to reassemble from scratch. The structure you build from those remaining pieces is often far denser and stronger than the original. The pain does not disappear. Profound neurological growth and deep suffering coexist in the brain at the exact same time. The anxiety you feel now, the hyper-awareness of red flags, and the rejection of surface-level relationships are the heavy costs your nervous system paid to acquire a permanent, highly accurate map of human behavior. The goal of mapping this behavior is true independence. The more financial, emotional, and social independence you build outside the reach of a toxic person, the less power they hold over you. Many survivors fear that setting strict limits and becoming unreadable will turn them into cold, numb, or cruel people. Look at a house in a dark landscape. To keep intruders out, you don't tear down the walls. You simply install a heavy door. You keep the warmth, the empathy, and the vulnerability intact inside. You ensure that your internal warmth is only accessible to those who have demonstrated they can be trusted with it. By stopping the energy drain toward people who exploit you, you preserve your capacity for connection for the people who actually deserve it. Walking away into a quiet, unapologetic silence is the final step. You take the damage they caused and turn it into precise, forward direction.